Well, it sounds like Catherine's gonna be right down after sending that email, so you okay with waiting until she comes back to start?
It's fun. I guess I'll survive.
Hmm?
I guess I'll survive.
get started, and then if we have questions, we'll put those questions on hold until Catherine can come back down to fill us in. This is a meeting of the Town of Pittsfield Ordinance Committee. Today is Tuesday, July 27th, 6:15 p.m. We're in the municipal council chambers as well as by Zoom or video conferencing technology. All of our members are here this evening. We have Councillor Peter Lodgedice, Councillor Jason Hall, Councillor Heather Donahue. We have two guests in the evening tonight. Would you like, in the audience tonight, would you like to introduce yourselves first?
Yes, I'm Leverett Fronald, 118 Noble Court here in Pittsfield.
Okay, thank you. And you, ma'am?
And I'm Ramona Curtis, and I live on Morrill Street in Pittsfield.
Thank you. And Town Manager Catherine Moose will be here momentarily. Old business tonight, there is none listed. So under new business, we can look at item A, Chapter 6, Article 9A, Noise and Public Conduct and or a separate fireworks ordinance. In our packet, we are given several items. The first item was a copy of the proposal from a citizen, which is Leverett, who's here this evening with us, that he handed out to the councilors at the last town council meetings. That's one item. We also have example consumer fireworks ordinances for the city of Waterville and the city of Fairfield, as well as our as well as information from the state ordinance, the state rules, and our own articles of incorporation regarding discharge of firearms, and then more information regarding consumer fireworks from Maine state law. And I think that was about the end of it. Our ordinance related to the noise ordinance. So we can start looking at those. Why don't we start with Leverett's letter here, since this is what is generating the item for the meeting tonight. If you would like to speak to this, sir,
Sure.
and kind of fill everybody in.
Good evening. I started this whole thing about, I don't know, was it about 6 weeks ago, was it, Peter? I think right approximately that anyways. You and I live in similar neighborhoods, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And down off from School Street, down near the corner, every so often those people will get into a fit setting off fireworks.
Yes.
And it gets pretty tiresome after a while. And unfortunately, there isn't any ordinances local here that give the police anything they can do about it. We have to follow state laws, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound right?
We do not have a fireworks ordinance per se.
Okay.
We have a noise ordinance, but not a fireworks ordinance.
Okay. So anyways, I did a little bit of research on this whole thing. And of course, there's different types of fireworks, which I really didn't know when I first started this whole thing. And also on the State Fire Marshal's website, there's a whole list of towns on there that have ordinances regulating this type of stuff. There's probably about 100 towns or so that prohibit it altogether, and then there's probably just as many that have a restricted use on it. And in this packet I put two different examples. Waterville doesn't allow any type of consumer fireworks, and Fairfield has a limited use of it. And of course there's several other examples that can be followed in there. So what I did is I typed up a letter with some type of a proposal here that would basically outlaw the use of any type of fireworks in residential areas. Because I don't know about you, but I get tired of hearing that stuff, and I've got an idea you do too.
My problem with it is the litter that it created. There wasn't 1 inch of my property that wasn't covered by tubes and cement plugs that could have come down on my windshield, and it was really scary because of the types of fireworks.
So anyway, they just handed out, and I'm going to give you mine, in case you didn't have it. I guess you do. Okay.
Oh, yes, I do.
All right. Yeah, because there's certain types of fireworks you're not supposed to have regardless.
Mhm.
And then there's other types that people with licenses can set them off like at a public event.
Sure.
So, anyway, my whole proposal is to come up with some type of an ordinance that would regulate this type of thing. There's other little things I put in there too, is like when you're having football games down to MCI, of course I know they like to shoot their cannon and a few other things down there, and I don't have a problem with that. But just to set things off at random in our own neighborhood and everything, that's not acceptable to me. And I'd like to see it banned altogether. So that's really about all I gotta say about it.
Okay. Catherine, we just started with reviewing for Leverett's letter.
Yes, thank you.
And then he talked a little bit about the 2 ordinances that he included in his packet, and then we have the other information from the state as well as our noise ordinance.
Yes, thank you. Yes, you did a very good job putting your presentation together. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And very helpful.
Yeah, and just one other thing I'll add too is I don't expect that we're gonna have something drafted and in the works tonight, because I know that we're probably gonna have to hash this out for a while, but, you know, whatever I can do to help, I certainly will be willing to do so.
And to add to that too, Counselor Hall found some guidance from the fire marshal's office at the state level. It's just a general guide to consumer fireworks use, which kind of boils down the state. There's many pages of state information there. This kind of just boils it down to the essentials of what's allowed on a statewide basis. So this would be the default that we have in place now, would be the state rules, because we don't have a specific ordinance to address this particular issue. Yes.
Right.
The problem for me is in a residential neighborhood, and if they're using larger fireworks that maybe they're not even supposed to have. We're talking, I had Egg Festival fireworks being shot over my property without my permission, and it completely trashed my property. So how can that be allowed? They shouldn't be allowed to do that. And the trash from it alone, foil, cement caps, also corks and large cardboard tubes, all on my property, not the property they were set off on. And that's because they were only setting them off 15 feet away from the property line.
Right.
So that's where you run into an issue, and they put my home in danger because it was hitting my roof. Our neighbor across the street texted my husband and said, "You have fireworks hitting your house and hitting your roof." And we have an old home. That's not a good feeling.
No, not at all. I wouldn't expect that it would be.
Was the police department able to help you? Because I referred your concern to the police department.
I talked to Officer Bickmore.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah, because
But his hands are tied without an ordinance.
well, actually, I
That's
don't
not
think
true.
so. No,
Well, he
because
did-
it's destruction of property.
Yeah.
A nuisance. There's several items that the police could utilize because that's wrong. It's dangerous.
Well, I mean.
Just
when it-
littering.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Littering.
littering in general would,
Yeah.
You got several things.
I mean, you can't just throw trash on other people's yard,
Right.
so.
Yeah,
That's
they
basically
might
what
as well
they're
come
doing,
over
so-
with their weekly garbage.
I would say his hands aren't necessarily tied in
Correct.
that instance. Are they doing this all hours of the night, in general, or
No.
it's usually done before 10? So you don't have that to fall back on, which is,
But
I mean, it's good that it's done before 10, but.
yeah, and I
it doesn't-
understand it was 4th of July, but there are times, as this gentleman said, they do it all times of the year, all hours of the day. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So it is a problem because not everyone is responsible with them.
I was just looking for I have so many pages here, and I saw it. It had,
So when I contacted the fire marshal, I did ask if there was any kind of restrictions as far as lighting off fireworks within a property line or, residential area, and they said at this point they don't have those restrictions at the state level. I think the gentleman did say they're gonna try to pass something through legislation to have something like that put in place. Not to say that we can't do it, I mean, he did say if you look at all these things, like you had already pointed out to us, a lot of different towns have certain restrictions that we could obviously adopt, and it would help. I think some of these things are really kind of the police and maybe the fire department enforcing some of the rules we do have in place, especially when it falls back onto the if we go by the state guidelines, they do have a way to enforce some of these things. But reading through some of these different town ordinances, there are some that I would almost pick and choose a lot of different ones, because I don't like necessarily all of what a particular town says, but I like portions of a lot of them. So like you said, I don't necessarily think we would come to a conclusion tonight, but I think there's a lot of literature out there that we could put together to help you guys. I mean, I live in town, and my neighbor is right in my backyard, and I mean, luckily enough, my neighbor's pretty decent people, so I don't have to worry about it like you guys would. But I mean, that's not to say somebody else might not move in there someday, so
Well,
I can definitely sympathize with that.
for me, it's the type of fireworks. Now, they've always done fireworks in that neighborhood that we're talking about, but it's the types of fireworks. They had, seriously, Egg Festival type fireworks going off in a residential neighborhood. Now, if they just have bottle rockets and sparklers and firecrackers like they normally do, or even the sky rockets, those aren't too bad. Those don't litter my property if they set those off. But these larger ones that they got hold of, and they snuck them in at dark too, in a pickup truck in my neighbor's backyard. And she didn't buy them, somebody else did, and
Right.
conned her into shooting them off in her backyard. I don't think she realizes that there could be a liability issue there.
So it sounds like the ones that were set off in your instance were larger than what the consumer
Yes.
fireworks would have been. So
Yes.
technically, they shouldn't even have been able to purchase those. So
Right.
that would be one type of infraction that was there,
Mhm.
I mean,
as
I would-
well as the littering.
Right.
But I mean, for our
I would have to
noise-
see the firework though, because I've bought fireworks from the place over in Newport. And you can get some pretty big fireworks, and they are consumer fireworks.
Yeah.
They go 200 feet in the air, and they're pretty decent fireworks. And I wouldn't want somebody lighting them off in my backyard like that. But I wouldn't necessarily say they're
Right,
illegally purchased, say, fireworks.
right.
Because you can get some pretty big ones right at the
Okay. Within
places
our
like that.
ordinances that we already have, considering 9A01.1 already prohibits yelling, shouting, hooting, whistling, and singing between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. I would think that we would be able to take some of the ordinances that we already have and just modify them. You could just add fireworks to that. So if they are shooting them off, they have to be done by 9 p.m. And then add an item in there that would include the space restriction as far as how close you can be to the property line or within a building, not even the property line, but a building. Like it shouldn't, even if somebody's shooting them off in their own backyard, they shouldn't be right up against their house, because that presents a safety issue as well. And, a horn or a signaling device, you could consider a firework as a signaling device, I guess. If a flare is, then a firework could be too. I'm wondering if we have to have a whole new ordinance or just modify or add to the one that we have as far as prohibited conduct and act.
I think in this case, I think we should have a separate ordinance if we're gonna have one.
To spell out
To spell out
fireworks per
specifically
se.
fireworks, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd just say that I'm not in favor of doing away with or banning fireworks. But I am in favor of maybe limiting the size of the ordinance and the size of the property you have to be able to fire a certain ordinance. And the mess littering can definitely be addressed. I saw that in some of these.
I
Yeah.
think the Fairfield one had that, because the Waterville one just says you just can't do it.
There's
You
also
can't even
one-
sell
Right.
fireworks.
I have also
in
one from
neighborhoods.
Hamden, and I think, did you say this one was from Bowden?
Bodenham, I kinda like some of in Bodenham's, consumer firework restrictions, they have a section that's, titled debris. A person may not allow debris from the use of a consumer fireworks to enter the land of the property of a person who has not given consent for the debris to enter the land on that property. So, in your case, you obviously didn't give them consent, all that stuff's landing on your property, they're in violation of the ordinance. I like the way it's worded.
I didn't particularly care for that because
You didn't?
it's the wind, right? I'd be more in favor of, you need to pick up your stuff.
Right, yeah,
Within a certain
that's
time
a good,
period.
that's a good point.
I mean, because you can't control the weather or the wind or whose property is gonna blow on.
That's
At the
true,
same
but at the
time-
same
At
time.
the same time.
You need
If
a,
there's pumps and things falling on your house.
Oh, absolutely.
And on my
because
deck.
Well, that's why it
My
would
hot
be
tub.
certain size properties. It wouldn't, you'd have to have a certain amount of property if we were gonna look at doing something. I mean, so
Sure.
I think the first thing is, we're all in agreement that or are we in agreement that we ought to have some sort of ordinance to the fireworks? And then the next thing is, then we're gonna have to spend meetings hashing out what our ordinance is gonna look like.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm fine with developing something because.
Because
it
they also had
definitely
one in there for
sounds like-
livestock too, which I know
Yeah.
was a concern.
Right, yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, the squirrels are scared, but I mean,
Right.
my dog gets scared when there's thunder out. So,
Right.
she doesn't know the difference between a firework and a thunderstorm.
I mean, like one of these spell out, you can't do them within 1,000 feet of
Yeah.
a farm or somebody with livestock
Yeah.
without notification or permission.
Permission from
That can be a huge safety issue as well. If you
Yeah.
have like horses or livestock that are likely to bolt, it can be an issue for safety for the
Right.
livestock if they're running through fence, or even for if they are near a road,
Yeah.
they could
Yep,
break
that
the
was
fence
in,
and get it out into the road.
Because I know when I
There's
Oh, sorry.
issues there.
when I looked at this, I was like, I'm really not interested. But at the same time, if I was a neighbor or had a neighbor that was shooting them off every single weekend, and my lawn was getting littered and so forth, which we have the potential because we have nothing to say otherwise, then I would definitely not be a happy camper. And so I think we probably need to do something.
So our
Not so much that we have a problem, we have isolated problem here, but we could have a potential to have a problem other places and in the future. I mean, you get into feud neighbors and the next thing you know, you know what I mean? Because they can basically now, with the state one, they can fire them off every day within a certain time frame without having an ordinance.
So we've had problems in 2 other areas of the town since the fireworks state law went into effect, but those 2 areas were resolved. So now we've got your area, that's an issue.
Yeah, I mean,
There are,
But I mean, we
isolated,
keep
there will
having
be
these little
more.
pop up everywhere,
Right.
whereas if we just do something and have an ordinance and that kind of do away with that.
So what might be good is if you all look through the ordinances that are listed on the state website that you can click on, that you've already clicked on, and find sections or ones that you like, and then either one of the counselors or I can receive all the information and then put together a sample ordinance or a draft ordinance for your next meeting, which will get input from the public too.
I mean, I hate
We have
adding,
our meetings.
I hate adding ordinances, but I
Yeah,
think
I mean, we have.
in this case, it's.
So these are meetings for opportunity for public input, which you're giving tonight, and it's valuable and it helps us understand what the issues are, so thank you for coming in and doing that and preparing all this ahead of time. And then once it goes from this committee with a draft to the full council, the council then discusses it and decides whether or not to schedule it for a public hearing. So it'll be discussed at the council when they set its public hearing, and then we'll have an actual public hearing, we'll discuss it again, and then we can vote and enact it that night, and then it's 30 days that
Yes.
it would come in after that. So,
it might take a little
It may
while,
take a
but-
while.
But it-
yeah,
Which is what
I'm
I
just
said.
saying that's
But-
kind of the process
Yeah,
that
that's,
we're looking at.
That's definitely good to know, but in the interim, I mean, I think there are things that you could definitely, not necessarily you, but the police could do if you have another instance. Obviously, nothing after 10 is already enforced. No littering is obviously enforced. Yeah, there's.
I think if they were to be cited for littering a couple times and fined, then that might curb that problem.
Yeah.
You know, they might still be setting them off, but maybe not the same size.
Well, one of the things
You
I'll
know,
add to
maybe they'll
this,
just be like, whatever, we're gonna pay the fine, I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people won't do that for very long.
You know, but I think, you know, in that instance, it would be, you know, definitely being able to document and have evidence to show the police and the aftermath, you know, if you can document and then call so that they can witness it happening and then, so.
now, I know that can be difficult to do sometimes. to
It
catch
can be tough to do, yeah.
But one other thing I want to add to this, a couple of things, is the debris and everything, like she just mentioned here a while ago, I mean, that's certainly a factor, but then the noise, I mean, even if you make people clean this up, the noise carries around for a long ways. And to get permission from other property owners, say, can I set off fireworks in my backyard? Well, there's going to be one person that says, well, I didn't know anything about this. And that's why I prefer a ban on this thing altogether. And then if somebody's got illegal fireworks, they set it off, well, how are you going to prove it? Because it's already been ignited and gone, and so how are you going to tell what they had? So that's pretty much all I got to say about this right now. But I know the process you got to go through. This has to go through a certain process in order for it to happen, and public hearings and everything, so I don't expect this is going to get resolved probably in the next 2 or 3 months anyway. But
I would think at least 3 months out, especially if we wanted to put other, like we talked about before, other ordinance items. But the other items that are on here are all relatively straightforward, more administrative housekeeping things to make things align correctly to where we are right now. This would be the one like new development type thing. The rest of these are just adjustments, I think.
Well, we're also coming into budget time too, so. And so we're also coming into budget time.
We are.
So
Yes.
we usually don't take up a lot during
Yeah.
budget time.
So the biggest concerns I'm hearing are about the litter that's left behind on other people's property, the safety issue of that the litter can create with falling items, the timing of it, either the frequency or the lateness of the hour for it, and then also the types of fireworks that are being let off. Anybody hear anything else to add to that as far as?
I think that's pretty much the concerns.
Okay, so when we're looking at other sample ordinances, those are kind of the things that we can kind of focus on
Yep.
when creating that.
There are some.
And you had mentioned, Ramona, you had mentioned the bottle rockets, and those are actually prohibited
Yeah.
by the state. If it has a wooden stick attached for guidance and stability, then that is prohibited materials.
So if before the next meeting, the councilors want to go through the different ordinances and pick out the ones that you like, send them to myself or to somebody who would like to volunteer, I assume it'd be myself. And I
I
will.
don't know, Jason did a pretty good job digging up all this stuff. Can we
Oh,
send them to
Jason,
you?
we'll send them on.
I can do that.
Okay, Jason will do it, Catherine.
All right, very good, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for volunteering.
Yeah.
Take a couple things off Catherine's plate.
So
Yeah, so
there's-
we can take some excerpts and of things that we think that would apply to those, at least those 4 main items that we talked about tonight, and then send them to Jason. And if you want to just put them like in a bulleted list, and then, you know, Catherine can, when we decide what we want to put in there, then Catherine can do like the language part of it.
Yeah, it's real,
We'll make the
yeah,
ordinance.
Yeah.
do all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, but.
Because
And
it
I
does
did-
have to have a certain format and whatnot.
And I did put the law in, which is helpful to skim through, and then I'll use that to make sure what we put together, will work.
One other question I have is when you put something like this together, does it have to be reviewed by the state or anything, just to make sure it doesn't conflict with any other type of regulation they may have?
It will need to be sent to the state once we approve it. I think because of the technicalities with this and the fact that it's going to be controversial, we would have legal review by it.
Mhm.
And in this case, the Maine Municipal Association has looked at a lot of these, so we would send it to the Maine Municipal Association for their comments.
Mhm.
And we can send it to the fire marshal's office beforehand if they would have time to review it. I'm not sure they would. But definitely, once it's approved, it has to go to the fire marshal's office within 60 days.
Mhm. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, good point.
Yep.
Okay, does anybody have anything else on that item A here? We're gonna go on to item B. You are more than welcome to stay and listen to us talk about contract bids if you would like.
I appreciate the offer.
Thank you for coming in tonight.
Hard pass.
I don't blame you. All right. Well, I know this is gonna be a lengthy process, but one of them things, if you don't start somewhere, you're never gonna get it, so.
Right, right.
Yep.
Anyway.
Thank
All right.
you very much. Well, we got the ball rolling.
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
both for coming
Thank
in.
you.
Yeah, you guys
Thank
too.
you.
Alright, so we're
This
gonna go.
meeting is being recorded.
Do we still have the first part recorded through the town hall?
It's recorded through town hall, and this isn't working well, so I've tried it again,
Okay.
and it's picked up. So sometimes, because of the way this is done through the cameras, we have to use both the Zoom and the town hall streams together.
Okay. Yeah, a couple times when I called in, I thought the quality
Mhm.
of the audio was so much better when the Zoom was being used than when the town hall streams
Correct.
microphones are being used.
Yes.
It was much clearer, and I think, Counselor Collmore had commented on it, that it's really, really hard to hear. It's just the acoustics in here are just terrible.
Mhm.
Well, I think if you get a better, you can get some microphones that
I
can
talked to Catherine about
literally
that,
pick up
getting
anything.
a set of, lapel microphones
Yeah,
for the
everyone would
counselors.
need to have one.
And then have it feed into the audio, so that every counselor would be picked up clearly.
Okay.
Because it's hard to get one microphone for the entire room that's gonna pick up all the sound.
Not- I've been in some meetings that it does, and it's really quite clear, but
Mhm.
it would, I mean, I'm not an IT person, so.
Oh, I'm
I
not
can't really
either.
speak to that, but I have witnessed,
Yeah.
one microphone pick up everything.
Yeah, we had
No.
that before we did all of this.
Yeah.
One microphone picked up the
I mean,
whole.
it might be an
room.
expensive microphone,
Yeah.
but it's one versus
Yeah, I had that
7 or
up
whatever.
front for ordering.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
Um,
that'd be good to look into.
Yeah, there was two different kinds. There was like a lapel one with just a battery pack, and then
Mhm.
it's a wireless system. Or there was like a wire tied one that had like a little, like you touch to speak type
Oh, yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So that it's not picking up every little shuffle of
Right.
papers and stuff like that.
I've had those before, those work really good.
Where you just kind of, and
Right.
those you see usually when you have like a large central table, you know,
Right.
type thing.
Mhm.
I just think that between the concrete wall, the brick wall, you know, the audio is just not very good in here.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna go on to, item B, chapter 2, the administrative code, division 1, article 1, section 106. Regulations of bids and contracts, amend the bid and quotation amounts from 3,500 to 5,000 and 3,500 to 5,000 and 7,500 to 10,000. So we're just gonna kind of slide everything up a scale here. And I'm guessing this is just because things cost more now.
Things cost more now, so we call this a bid policy, and we have forms upstairs. So in this bid policy, any item that's 3,500 or more has to be bid out officially and has to have a legal ad and everything unless it's restricted or we decide not to formally. So items cost more, so we thought 5,000 for that. And then the items that would come to the town council for approval of the bid specs would be 10,000 or more. And then we still have the emergency section in which, let's say all of a sudden a road washes out, or we have a sewer break in which we gotta bring in 3 different types of companies, we can still spend the money and then I come in and advise you. So far, any emergency we've had to date, we've only had one way back in which I notified you, but all the other items have come under the cap, although they've been emergencies. So we thought, making 3,500 go up to 5,000, because you can do quite a bit with that, and then the 7,500 would go up to 10,000. There was some discussion at 12,000, but 10,000 may be good. Yeah. We still want items to come to the town council, we just don't want more mundane things to come in.
Well, we would still need to approve the funds, but not having to put out bids for it.
Correct, yes.
So this would actually expedite some of the contracts and things, especially when we know that there's only a very limited number. A lot of the things that come to us are like, okay, we're gonna waive the bid policy, but we have to have a meeting and say we're gonna waive the bid policy because we have this in place, even though we know there's only like one person or one vendor for a service or something. So this means that we can just be brought that item and not
Yes.
have to waive it.
So it's 10,000 without having to get without having to get bid.
Without going out to
It can
bid.
be done in the office.
But it's still gonna always come to
It's
the
still gonna come to
town council for
council
approval.
Right.
It'll
Still
be
approve the
approved.
expenses.
The funds are already approved ahead of time. This happens when there's items that aren't in the budget and issues come up and all of a sudden you have new bid specs. So if you had something that was $20,000, we would want it to come into the town council.
Or something that's 10,000 won't come into the town council.
Under 10,000 will not come in. Right now, under 7,500 does not come in. Think of the items that you have, they're all big items, unless something is unusual, we have it planned for it, we have to figure out how to pay for it, we bring that in if it's something new that wasn't budgeted for. So yes, there's a whole variety of items that will come under 7,500, I mean, even buying diesel and unleaded, you know, we changed that, so, we could buy it up to 7,500. And because of the size of the tank, one of the types of things, it's a gas, there's no way you can buy over that, so that's already covered. So that gives an additional 2,500 for items that would not come in here. There's a few things that would come in there. I know people would probably like more, and you know, 12,000, 15,000 was indicated by different people, but in the end, 10,000 is reasonable, I think. And items just cost more. We got some quotes for the stumps to be taken out, and by the amount of money that it costs, we have to come in to get approval for stump removal. You know, that's a pretty mundane item.
Well, you have an excavator, so I'd just dig it out.
You know, you should see some of these. You can do that with some.
Those are really big holes. Having just spent a day or two digging
Oh, yeah.
stumps
Oh, I
out
know
of
they're
my
big.
lawn, those are big holes. I don't know that residents would concur with the assessment to dig it out of their front lawn if it's
I don't
along
think,
the road.
for a resident?
Yeah, these would be like the trees that are marked along like
Oh.
Main Street and Somerset that need to be taken down. They cut them down one year and then like it might be 2 or 3 years later before the stumps get removed, and they usually grind them down.
Yeah,
Do we ever check with people to see if like somebody would, if they have a piece of equipment that could, they have a stump grinding business, do we check and see, yeah, will you do this for the town for, as a tax write-off or whatever they do?
Yeah.
Well, it goes out as like a bid right now. It's bid
Yeah.
out for removal and Tree removal and stump removal.
So far, everyone wants to be paid for that service, it's kinda hard work to do.
No, I
the
understand
stump.
that.
The stumps is the problem.
I just think of that big stump grinder that I think Jimbro just operated for MCI.
Mm.
I figured they might donate that or something to operate. But anyway,
So we're
sorry,
trying to go
going down
back.
the wrong path. Anyway.
Yeah. We're trying to go back so that when we do the tree, we do the stump too, because leaving the stumps there is irritant to people. We used to do the trees and stumps together, and then, different people think different ways, and then it got, so the stumps were all there for years and years. So now we're cleaning up all the stumps, and then we go back to the trees and the stumps together.
I think it's because our trees got so far ahead of us and it got so expensive.
Yeah, we didn't do it one year, and
Yeah.
then you're really far behind.
So-
I know, if you marked everything that was in the big tree survey, you could actually cut a third of the town.
Yeah. Any other discussion about this? Any other concerns?
Well, I don't have a problem with the 5,000, but I'm struggling a little bit with
Yeah.
it.
10 seems up, I mean,
And the fact that it does not, in that C, it does not specify that it's just waiving competitive bids. It's actually waiving coming to the council.
Yeah, they still have to get bids, they still have to go through and fill out all the forms. They still have to come in and get approval, they can't just, a department can't just go out and say, you know, I can spend 7,500, 10,000. They have to get the form filled out, get their different quotations, get approval. And then, when they come in for approval, I have to certify they have the money in the account, or someplace in their budget. So they still have to go through a process.
It just wouldn't come.
Do you wanna make it 9,000?
What's that?
Do you wanna make it 9,000?
no, I mean,
I,
It's $2,500 more than what it is now.
yeah.
If you think about how much things have gone up in cost over the last year and a half, almost everything's gone up at least 20%,
so
if not 30% for
Well,
supplies
yeah.
even.
will we see those, we'll see those
We see those expenditures in our warrant.
Yes.
in the warrant?
Yeah.
Definitely. And I talk about the projects too, so I can make sure it's in the town manager's
Right.
report. We went out and did the quotations, the X trees is gonna be cut.
So it's goods and services would be $10,000 and, goods, services and supplies would be 5,000.
Yeah, so anything smaller, the 3,500 will go up to 5,000. And then that fits in that number of C, and the B above, and then the C below. That should be an E below, all right, that's not clear, an E. And then the A, C would change to 10,000, also the K below.
So for whoever is pricing this stuff out, we're relying on them to go out and price and get the lowest prices possible?
Yes.
And then Catherine would still have to approve it.
Yeah, they have to show the bids, it can't just be verbal. Public Works was doing verbal for a while, and they were told they had to use the written one, because there's always, you know, differences of opinion on exactly what's involved, so it has to be in writing. Everybody gets, like, the easiest way to do this, without getting complicated for these smaller things, is to make a list of what the requirements are. Everybody who's gonna bid on it has the requirements. Then they all bid on the same thing, have a little form, have a time, date and time it has to come back, and then you get them all and decide which one to take.
So the process isn't changing.
No.
Yeah,
for
we're
the
just changing the
approval,
dollar
it's
amounts.
just when it
Correct.
actually comes to us, whether we know about it ahead of time and approve it, or whether Catherine, we give Catherine the authority just to tell them to go ahead and take the low bid.
And they'll all say that they have to go through the process.
I'm fine with it.
I mean, personal, yeah, I mean, I didn't know that this was the process, I guess. I almost would think I'd want to lower the dollar amounts, not increase them.
Well, you have staff
Is that-
members that wanted like $20,000 there, which is I told them it's unreasonable, and let's try 10,000, because there's been a bunch of things that are a little bit over 7,500 that were kind of mundane.
I'm not struggling with the supplies so much as the other one.
As what?
I said, I'm not struggling with bringing the supplies one up to 5,000. I'm good with that.
Okay.
I'm still a little leery about the other one.
Yeah, there's very little you can buy for under 3,500 now, especially in the public works areas. Water, sewer.
So is it C, Pete?
Yeah,
Goods and services?
that one kind of.
Are you thinking more about like services to the town that you wanna be able to have, do you wanna change that? You know, I mean, goods is up above, so does it need to be there as well, and we could just have that be for services? Is that what you're thinking?
Along those lines, yeah.
I mean, we can also go through and actually specify what the process is within there, Catherine, couldn't we? That they're required to have bids turned into the town manager for approval instead of the town council. Town council, so in excess of 7,500 shall require approval. I mean, all of them require approval of the town manager because you have to certify that the funds are available.
Correct.
And at the point that it triggers between, when it gets to the 10,000 mark, that's when it needs to come to the town council.
That would be correct. Or you could make it 9,000 if you wanted to. And remember, these are.
I mean, is that gonna help, is the $2,500 gonna make a big difference as far as what comes and
There's
doesn't
been
come?
a bunch of little things, the tree removal, the stumps, some water and sewer items, and they'll say that they need to do these things, quickly, not wait for the council meeting, and what I've indicated is that unless it's unexpected, if it's expected, they should know when the council meetings are, and they know when to schedule, when to file their forms, so they need to plan their work. If it's something unique and new, then they wouldn't have known until it happened.
So it's a 20% increase, the 2,500 is a 20% increase over the 7,500.
And just think of the prices of everything, it's just ridiculous.
Where do you wanna go with this?
If you want, I can give you a list, a bulleted list of what items get approved. I mean, I have the purchase order books, so it's pretty easy to do. We have books now with, we went back to the books that I had when I first started. So we got books, you can whip through the purchase orders to see exactly what's going on.
I mean, the council still has to vote on this too, right? If we're gonna make this change.
You're voting on the budget and you're voting on you're doing the expense warrant, you're voting on it by signing it.
But I mean, if we
Well, no,
make
this
this,
particular
if we make this
item.
particular change, if we decide to make this change in this meeting, the council's still gonna have to vote on it.
Yes.
Right, the full council,
So that
so
still
we're just
gives us,
making a recommendation.
that still gives us an option to think about this some more, I think, so I'm good.
Right.
I'm good.
Yeah, okay.
You wanna do this, move it on to the full council?
We can move it on, cause
for this
then if I
item?
have an issue, we can
Yeah.
always worry about it then.
You can always flip-flop. You can flip-flop, it's fine.
It's not a flip-flop,
No, I'm
we
just-
can get through the process.
I'm kidding.
You know, if we said no
No,
to
I mean,
all of this, then none of the other counselors have an opportunity to weigh in.
Right,
Whether they
right.
have concerns or
Yep.
not.
Right.
You know, and they might all say, no, this is a terrible idea.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
they might have all the same misgivings you do, or
Right.
they could be like, yeah, this is silly, we should totally increase this
Yep.
because of the way the world is working right now. But you don't know unless you bring it to the full
Yeah,
council.
that's why
Yeah.
I'm good.
So you're okay with the 3,500 going to 5,000, it's the 7,500 one?
Yeah, and I'm
Okay.
still, I might get warmed up to that too.
Okay.
It depend, but we'll have plenty of time.
Yeah, different ideas. Somebody might bring up something
Right.
like, oh,
And, oh, yeah, no
that
problem.
makes sense, never mind.
Right, so I'm good to move it forward.
Okay, so the committee concurs that this one will move forward. Okay, let's move on to C. Chapter 2, Administrative Code, Division 1, Article 1, add Section 110, Remote Participation Procedures.
So these are the Zoom or video conferencing items that we passed by emergency ordinance, and within 60 days of when the emergency ordinance is passed, you have to pass your ordinance.
So we're just gonna codify
Yes.
what we actually passed. So
Yeah,
this
I
is what
took
we
out the
saw.
emergency sections.
So this is what we saw at the last meeting that we approved at the
Mhm.
last meeting.
And this will just be for
Yep.
the foreseeable future.
Unless you revoke it, or
Unless- yeah.
something gets changed.
Yeah,
So this gives
I think
us
it's
some
good.
flexibility if people are out of town or something like that, they can still participate. Or if they're sick, you know, say you end up with the flu and you're
right. Don't
down and
want 'em-
out, you know, you can sit at home with a cup of tea and pet the dog and
Right.
still vote on things.
You don't want
know?
them in here coughing and hacking, so that works.
And it also, like, I think of this as being rather helpful when it comes to, budget time when we have bad weather in November and
Yes.
December,
Mhm.
trying to make sure that we have our meetings in.
Mhm.
Obviously, public hearings are a little more difficult to do by Zoom if more people want to participate, but it also gives the general public the ability, if we're continuing this process, it gives them the ability to continue to be able to participate in that way too.
Yep.
I'm all for this, I think it's a good idea. What do you think, Pete?
So even if the state discontinues this, our ordinance will still be able to,
So the state has actually indicated, because the state has said we can do this, we then would pass, you could pass it as a policy procedures, and I've decided to make sure that we could have Amanda participate, but as well as to make sure it was in the code book, so we didn't lose it over the years. We have to pass a policy, so it's like you have to opt in to the state law to do
yeah,
it.
gotcha, yeah, okay. Yep, I'm good.
You agree with that?
Yeah,
Okay, so the committee will recommend that.
makes good sense.
Okay, D, Chapter 2, Administrative Code, Division 2, Article 3, delete Section 1000, Community Theater, Section 1001, Establishment, Section 1002, Theater Manager, and Section 1003, Theater Committee. So this is like a housekeeping item because we closed the theater last year. We do not have an operating theater to have an
Oh,
ordinance
fine.
about.
Yep.
So I left that in there for a while until something came up, which now it has. And, I mean, there is some possibility that somebody would come forward and say, hey, I'll give you $1 million and we'd run a theater, but I think it's pretty low.
But even then, we don't need an ordinance on the books about the town
For the
having a
town.
theater committee though.
Correct. That part,
Good
I
town
think, would
knowledge.
go away no matter what.
Yeah.
Yes. It would just be run like another department. So we could bring it back if we needed it, but it's highly doubtful.
So this is us saying for sure that we are not gonna be running a theater. I mean, we already voted to close it, but this is really saying we're gonna take this off the books completely.
Yeah, it's cleaning up the books.
Good with that.
And it's also helpful to get this done, you know, let's hope it's gonna sell this year, and someone is gonna come along for this miracle project here, and so we'll want this off the books at that time.
Just to make it cleaner for the
Yes,
transfer.
because we'd be
It's not-
selling the property, and here it says we're supposed to be running it.
Right.
Mm.
Any concerns about that one, Pete?
All right.
So the committee will recommend that that also goes to the full council. Administrative Code, Chapter 2, Division 2, Article 3, amend Section 1101, Establishment for Water Department, and Section 1201, Establishment Sewer Department, to add contract.
All right, so we'll have contracted services shortly. I thought it might be good to have something in here. Right now, let's say the water one under section 1101, it says there shall be a water department, which there is. The head of which shall be the superintendent, so that's whatever, we call it plant manager, but still a superintendent, who shall be directed by the public works director and or town manager. So in our case, they'll be directed by all of our associates with the town's concurrence. So
So
the
can we-
appointment shall be by the town manager, so that'll need to be fixed, because the appointment will be by Oliver, it'll be their employee.
So could we just add in the words or contractor?
Yeah, I think we could just put in,
Because it's not gonna necessarily always be Oliver Associates.
Right.
that would be correct. So what we could do is say, or by contract.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be good with that.
Everybody agrees with that?
Yeah.
And that would be the same for the sewer department, because their word is pretty much the same.
Right.
Okay, I'm good with that one too, it only makes sense.
Yep.
We don't have any updates on, any of the items on hold. Do we, Captain?
No, we don't.
And then, yeah, that's it.
And I didn't do anything with the animal waste because it's been notoriously quiet. We can add that
Animal
one
waste?
on too.
I haven't noticed it as much.
What do you mean?
Yeah, we had
Horse
like the
manure.
Amish with the horses.
Oh, yeah, I wanted
People
to
were
bring
com-
that up.
People were complaining because, you have your pets that you have to clean up after, but the horses can just.
No, yeah, I was actually gonna bring that up, I forgot many times. I know Unity does have an ordinance where they put, the catcher on the back of the horse. If I lived on Heartland Ave, I probably wouldn't like backing out over that with my truck or trailer or tractors.
Wash it off.
Huh?
Wash it off.
Excuse me? What's that? I have to pick up my dog stuff. But, so I guess that was, somebody brought that up and there's been no issues lately or
Yeah,
something?
we talked to the farmers and they got the
Yeah.
word through it and things have been very quiet.
I have to say, I've seen less of.
Yeah,
That was one of the things I brought up, was I'd seen somebody on Heartland Avenue that it was right across the entire driveway, I would be so upset.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too bad.
We
That
sent
was my
public works
driveway.
up to clean that up. It just was across both of their driveways. It was
Yeah.
very unusual.
Yeah.
Right.
And they were elderly
You
couple.
just talk to the people, they're pretty,
They're very nice.
yeah, it's not, I think many people have a problem with
So do we need to address that going
I,
forward?
you
or
know,
want to let it
I
lie
think
for
that's
now?
kind of taking care of itself for
Yeah,
now.
it seems to have. I left it on the list just in case.
Alright, do we wanna take that off the list now? Wanna keep it on there in case?
Leave it on there for a
comes back
while.
up
I was
a
gonna say, I
little
know there's some residents that wanted to have that on there, but only because of the dog thing, they said, I get fined for having my dog crap, but the horses can go up and leave it right at the end of my driveway. I mean, I'm just
it.
saying.
I am,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in favor of what you're saying, because I feel that same way, but.
But I also know that it hadn't.
I don't-
Silly, but.
But you're, yeah,
I mean, if you're walking a dog, you are intentionally taking them a place to do their business, if you're,
no, I'm not.
if you're, if you're riding down the road, you don't really have any control over that, That would be my argument against having it. But there are towns that have the diaper catchers, or the
Yeah.
horse diapers,
I know Unity
If people
does.
want to, take the horses on the beach, they have to put them on, those types of things. So, I mean, they're out there, and then there's I think it's like a basket underneath between the horse and the cart where you can also have a spot for it to catch. So there's that as well.
Right.
But
Yep.
it's just a matter of, it's probably a huge inconvenience for the person operating the wagon, I would think, or the cart.
You could.
So what do you want to do with that one? You want to just leave it on the
Let's
on
leave
hold list?
it on there.
We can for now, we'll see how the rest of the summer pans out,
Okay.
but I haven't seen it be an issue lately.
Okay.
Figured if it's big enough that people would show up.
Or be texting or emailing.
Yeah,
All right. Next meeting date, I have no idea, it should be like, what, the 4th Tuesday? No. Finance is at the end of the month?
Yes, we have that on our calendar.
Oh, finance is the 2nd, so we are the 4th, so we're looking at August 24th. Would be
Yes.
our next meeting, does that sound right?
Yes, and then once we get further into the budget process, it does change around.
Yeah.
They try not to focus on ordinances.
Yeah.
August 24th, I'll have kind of a list of things
So-
we think.
Yep, Pete and I,
Prior
we
to-
all have homework, go find fireworks, things that we think are
Yeah.
reasonable. Send them to Jason, he can compile a list.
It looks like on the 24th though, there's a finance committee meeting. Looking on
The
the
10th should be the finance committee meeting, I think.
Well, they've got a star on the.
Okay, the 10th, is the the council workshop is likely on the 10th.
Oh,
So that you can work on the budget, so
Yeah,
you
the
would
budget
move the
workshops are
finance
starting.
And the
down.
24th is the finance
Right.
on
Do we-
here right now.
Can you check that for the next month in September?
Yep.
It'd be the 28th?
September, I'm showing every Tuesday's lit up.
Yeah.
Except for
I
the
gotta shoot,
31st.
every Tuesday from now till the end of December. should
Except for
be
the
fine.
31st is open.
Well, the 21st is our regular council meeting.
31st.
Oh, the 31st of August, because, oh,
Yeah.
maybe our ordinance committee is supposed to be in there, that 5th Tuesday.
Probably.
I was kinda hoping that 5th Tuesday.
All right, we can set that for the 5th, because there's nothing on there now. Okay.
That's the day after Labor Day.
No, the 31st would be the 5th Tuesday of August. Traditionally, it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
no meetings Tuesday night.
Yeah, those are always
Those are nice to have.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and I don't have them.
So I think what normally happens is we try not to, we don't have ordinance items once we get into the budget process, just like Pete said, because there's
Right.
just so many Tuesdays that are available.
Do you think we'd be able to do, because we're getting into budget on the 24th, could we do ordinance after finance? Do finance from like 5 to 6:30?
So Amanda has said she can't get here before 6:30.
Okay. Could we
Do
do
the
ordinance
ordinance
at
first?
5? Can you do 5?
Yeah, you could do that.
That's up to
Do
Pete.
5 to 6:30?
I might be able to.
Does
yeah.
that make it
Five-
to the
five's
site
pushing
to
it,
work?
but I think I can get in.
Well, because the next meeting will really just be fireworks, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like it. We
So-
could even do 5:30.
so, I mean-
5:30 to 6:30.
I mean, I can draft something up, and we can kind of have it kind of ironed out.
Yeah, if you
And then
just
when we show up,
take all
we're all
the
like,
bits and
yep,
pieces,
we're good.
plug them all in together, and then we can go through together and be like, yes on this one, no on
Yeah.
this one, and then give Catherine the list and she'll do the
Right.
actual language for it.
Right.
And then it'll come back to the
I
full
can-
council at that
yeah.
point, Catherine, or would we have to approve that final document for it?
If you have your final document before the meeting, and let's say you schedule it for the 24th, before the finance committee meeting, you should be able to tie it up that night unless you have a few little items, and you could make a motion that would just say that you would, vote by email. If you needed to make any changes.
Well, I'm thinking we would have like the list of items that we liked out of other towns.
You'll have that
That we
ahead of
sent
time.
to Jason, and he would come in or send us ahead of time the long list, and then we would hash out
It would
what
work.
we thought should go into the ordinance.
Mhm.
So if we put those items together, and then you worked on the actual language for the ordinance, we could vote to approve that by email,
So you could
and have it
vote,
go to the council?
you could vote that night that this is your concept, and then direct that it be placed in ordinance language.
Okay.
And then that will take care of the issue. And this will work unless there's, a difference of opinion.
I'm just wondering, a way that we can get it
Get
done
it
and
done.
over with before we get
Yes.
too deep into the budget stuff.
I think we have to, because we've tried to do.
Otherwise, it's January, just
Yeah.
say it's January.
I mean, I can have like a draft to you guys, it won't take me that long to get a draft out there,
Yeah.
and then we can go from there.
Mhm. And then once you have the draft, we do need to, I think to expedite this and have the citizens involvement, I'll send it to the citizens, if that's okay. Or a second draft to the citizens that are interested.
Oh, to the
Yeah.
folks that were here, right, yeah, I would say second draft,
Okay.
not my first draft.
Everybody got a second draft.
I'm no English major, so, yeah.
Well, it'd have to be like the legal language of it
Yeah.
too, so I'm.
I'll be up, like, I mean, I kinda like Hamden's.
I
I'd
like
probably
it.
start with that and
I
I'd
like your
start,
setup.
yeah, I like the setup, I liked how it was worded and stuff.
The Hampton one.
I thought it was pretty good.
Is that one
Obviously,
that you sent me? Is that one of the ones that you sent me, or was that one of the ones that you just went through and clicked on?
that's one of the ones I clicked on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check, I didn't look at that one yet, I'll look at that one.
Um,
Okay, so the
Yeah.
24th, our next meeting will be August 24th, 5:30 to 6:30. We'll be perusing that draft of language, and we'll have something that we approve there that we then send out for ordinance prettying up, and then that will go to the council on, what do
24th.
you think, the 7th?
Oh.
That would be 2 weeks later, or would you want to do the 21st of September?
It would depend on how much needs to be
What
done.
else is being
Yes, and
done.
how much is going on.
So sometime in September.
Yes, we would just say it would go to a September council meeting.
Okay.
All right.
Catherine, were you gonna send out the budget meeting calendar again?
I can
With
do
any
that.
changes that we've done? Like, that would be a change to squeeze in the.
Yes, we did the
finance,
first,
or
yeah.
the ordinance along with the finance all in that one evening.
So the budget calendar is a separate listing that has more information on it. The combined meeting calendar is the one that I revised, when we changed around the finance committee meeting because of the election. So that's the one I'll send out, which is the,
Okay.
vertical and horizontal setup, that has all of the meetings on it, so I'll revise that one.
Is that the one that's in like a calendar page?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and then just start with August, rather than
yes.
giving us all the stuff we've already
Mhm.
done.
Yep, very good.
So August, September, October, November, December. Okay, and then, I don't know about you, but I'm gonna start bringing it with me and I'll just add things to it. Okay, do we have anything else for this evening? I don't have anything else on the agenda.
No.
Anybody wanna make a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I concur, we're adjourned. 7:17.
What's that?
7:17.
Okay.
We're gonna go home and go to sleep now. Spent the day weed whacking at another
Killed
farm.
that.
I'm
Yes,
so silly.
okay.
That's.